Now, for more on this story, we can bring in France 24's Wassim Nasr. Wassim, Israeli Defense Forces say Gaza City has been encircled. What does this mean for Hamas exactly?
Well, actually, you have to look at a map to see exactly what it means for Gaza City to be encircled. And as we will see the areas where the Israeli army advanced, meaning in the north, next to the beach, and next to the Heret border passage in red, where we see, and the central area where they made their first incursion a few days back at Jahr al-Dik, and then all the way to the beach. So we see Gaza City isn't materially encircled yet, but it is possible that it is encircled by fire, as we say if you use military terms, meaning everything that goes out and inside Gaza City can be attacked or hit by Israeli tanks as long as they are visible for the Israeli soldiers. Knowing that up to this point, as we see on those images too, he's a Merkava 4 tank. Here we see Israeli soldiers advancing in those areas, and we see we are still in the outskirts of Gaza City. We see that the highest buildings here are 2 or 3 floors high, meaning we are not yet in the dense urban area of Gaza City, and here we see it on those images, knowing that it will be much more difficult to advance in the destroyed urban area for an army than in this kind of theater that we see here. And here on those Hamas images, we see a Hamas fighter going out of his hideout and attacking a Merkava 4, the most advanced Israeli tank. He's gonna put an improvised device on it, meaning that he will make the turret unfunctional, or jam the detection system of the Merkava 4, which avoids it from being hit with small rockets like this. And the rockets that we see here are tandem rockets, meaning they have 2 explosive heads in them. One to hit the defenses of the tank, or the first defense of the tank, and another one to explode inside of the tank.
Is that the extent of Hamas firepower?
Well, actually, that's what we see up to now, because we are we are not yet in the hard part of the battle, and what we saw is what Hamas is using, and he will see it here, is even civilian drones, because this is a drone monitoring the first areas of incursion of Israeli army next to Erez at Bet Hanun, and we see it here again with the same ammunition that we talked about, knowing that this kind of ammunition, the tandem RPG style rockets, are made locally by Hamas fighters. So this, combined with the drones here that we see, this footage comes from a civilian drone that fell in Israel on the 7th of October, and we see it with the tandem rocket on it, made to hit the turret of tanks. As we saw before, tanks have some kinds of extra defense, as we see it here, and also in Ukraine, in order to avoid this kind of attack. And so we have a video that shows us, an old video, how Hamas fabricates or manufactures those rockets internally. So it's not very hard to manufacture when you have the know-how. So this is all done inside Gaza. And one more time, Hamas didn't deploy yet what the ATGM, meaning the anti-missile tanks more developed, like Cornet, like Eric, which you used also in the first days. We didn't see them yet. We only saw civilian drones, those kind of attacks with 2 fighters at most, hitting Israeli tanks from behind, as we saw in the battle in 2006 in Lebanon. And one last important thing, Hamas also has the capability, as we see here, to launch rocket in an indiscriminate way against the Israeli territory. And what we see here is actually they are taking out the pipelines that used to be used by the Israeli colonies in Gaza prior to 2005. Those colonies were abandoned, and so Hamas is deterring all those pipelines and fabricate and then transforming them into rockets with very primitive means. It can be used. It can be done very easily with civilian products. The explosive can be manufactured, and also the liquid that propels the rocket. So up to this point, as we speak, we are still on a very rudimentary basis of used by the Hamas to defend its territory. And from the Israeli side, they are still on the outskirts of Gaza City, and the hard part of the battle didn't start yet.
Thank you very much for that, Wassim Nasr there.
Thank you.